Jai Hind viewers, we come today to another episode of MRO Digest Dialogues, and today we shall be talking on one of the most important subject, that is the transfer of technologies, in brief TOT, in defense domain. And we have amongst us a very illustrious human being, Mr. Pradeep Gupta, who is a subject matter expert on this issue. He is not only a technocrat who has insights of the technologies, but also is a bureaucrat with more than 33 years of experience with notable tenures in the Ministry of Defense and Ministry of Home Affairs, and therefore he is aware about the processes involved in the TOT, and his inputs will be very encouraging. He is an IOS officer who has done remarkable work in multiple fields, including being awarded multiple times on various counts. He was also privileged to work as OSD in the indigenization subject, which is a flavor of the today's time. He is an individual who is very passionate with his mission of nation building and has started a think factory known as Security and Policy Initiatives, in brief SAPI, which was launched just a year back on 26th October 21, and it has the primary aim of absorption of technology, and that is to transfer of technologies and the border management. So today we shall be discussing a subject with Mr. Pradeep Gupta, about which not only he has got the very vast exposure, but he is very passionate about it. With that as a background, we are privileged, Mr. Gupta, to be speaking to you on this particular subject. And before we move on the subject, could you briefly explain TOT for the viewers to understand this important subject, sir?
Thank you, General Kumar, for nice introduction. I also thank the MRO Digest Forum for giving me this opportunity to be with you all and explain certain things which I am very passionate about. And General Matharu for introducing me to the MRO Digest, wonderful this forum, which is, I would say, of all the forums, what I am interacting better than even SAPI. And I look at the MRO Digest churning out some very fruitful things in the due course and times to come. Regarding the TOT transfer of technology, if you look back since the defense procurement started way back in 50s till 2022, which is happening, and almost I would say 72 years, 75 years of independence too. We have been getting weapons from outside. Certain weapons come with the TOT. Once the TOT comes, we whatever we do, I don't say that we absorb it, but then certain things we do, and then thereafter, when the next version of the equipment or the better equipment is to be purchased, we again go for equipment purchase and the fresh TOT. So this is a repetitive cycle which is happening for all these years. So what is the issue that we keep on importing TOT? And we are not able to make our own or conceptualize our own weapon system. This is what had been bothering me for almost 3 decades of my association with defense production and at the apex level in the defense ministry too. So regarding the transfer of technology, if you see, this particular term is being used very loosely everywhere. Even the license production, what is being dubbed as a TOT. So license production is simply some way the principals tell you how to produce that equipment. Some handholding is done, and they provide you some idea about the machines which are to be used. The layout is given, and when the production is established, say of a T-72 tank, way back in 80s, when the the technology was brought from Russia. Big assembly lines were then done up in Kanpur, in Abdi, etc., and they started manufacturing. But uh, after that, when the T-90 tank came, again we had to go for TOT. So there is an issue, like in the transfer of technology. If we see the entire thing of how did they conceptualize, how did they design, how did they produce the equipment, is very important. Now, you will think that when I am buying TOT, it is the duty of the principal to tell us everything. But one thing we must keep in mind, that nobody is going to give us knowledge on platter. Even if you pay 100% of the TOT cost, which may be running in billions, but then nobody is going to give you. So I have to be smart. It cannot be a one-way process, principals only telling the recipient or the buyer that yes, you take this, you do like this, and we meekly accept it. Uh, my interpretation of TOT is that the team which is interacting with the principal's representatives have to be sharper than the principal's people. And Indians are the best technical persons, I would say, in the world. In almost all the fields they are there, they are working individually. But when the systemic issue comes, then we are obviously not that very capable. So once the principal tells you the gives you document, there are questions to be raised. Know how, know why. We must be ready with those questions, and thereafter there are certain things which we call it tacit knowledge, which is undocumented. So that is the catch of the technology transfer. How did they achieve, and how did they do it despite of having all the parameters given in the documents being implemented? So this is where the complete technology transfer will happen, and then we will internalize. So that's what my interpretation is there, that TOT has to be done very, very actively. So this is in short, I would like to mention. But nevertheless, if I go by in my forum, I had told that there are 4 ways to acquire weapon. One is the purchase. Of course, in that outrightly there is no TOT. We also have started the process of leasing of the weapon. And third is research and development, which is DRDO is doing, but certainly everything they are not doing. And then is the TOT. TOT is the quickest way to catch up, and I would also suggest that very smartly we can build up the integration of the TOT and the indigenous R&D and come up with a better design. Like if I am designing a platform, it is happening in India. If you see the AMCA aircraft, we are we're designing certain things, we're keeping our indigenous capabilities, as well as we are inducting equipment components from outside. So this is the position of today, but tomorrow, who says that we may be able to make 100% of those components? So there is a need to get smarter in this and do in every weapon system this particular template. This is just my view of the TOT.
Thank you, sir. Actually, you have brought out a very, very interesting term, that we have got to be smarter and not only bookish in case we have to succeed in the domain of TOT. And though China is our adversary, but the way he has concentrated in this particular field and has, learnings in multiple domains, that could be, we can take some lessons from our adversary also. Now, sir, when we are moving towards Atmanirbharta as well as focusing on indigenization, now TOT has become a really buzzword. Every in deal or deliberations, we look at TOT so that we can bridge the gap between the current technologies and our future needs. While R&D, as you brought out, is doing a certain bit of it, but by itself it is a time consuming process and may not meet the deadlines what we have to meet. But in your understanding, sir, how has been the effectiveness of TOT so far, and also some views on its utility for the defense forces?
Thank you, Jan Kumar. As till date, the TOTs have not served the. If I see, it has been more or less licensed production, and real TOT has not happened. Yes, certain successes have been there, but it is to the credit of the agencies like DRDO or space ISRO, etc. Like in missiles, like in nuclear, even the atomic energy. But then keeping aside the fair successes in the nuclear domain, in the missile domain, etc. These are two, three areas where we have got good success and everybody in the world acknowledges it. But in bulk of the other weapon platform procurement, like in the aircraft, like in howitzers, like in ships, etc., even submarines, we have to travel quite a distance before we are able to conceptualize on our own and in an independent way. We have been like if a TOT comes, there is a need to internalize whatever knowledge is kept. I mean, gained from the TOT what we obtain. Now, at present, the when the TOT is transferred, I mean, given to an entity, say for a DPSU or to any other, even the workshops of the armed forces or navy or the any other organization, uh, documents are received, people get training, the person get training, they interact, and some handholding is also done, and then it is forgotten. For me, the effectiveness will only happen if we take up this entire process in a mission mode, monitor it for several years, and see that it is integrated with the other such similar technologies in India. Like if I have a TOT done for, say, fire control system I have obtained from abroad. We have lot of indigenous guns or the guns which we are like making, and we can integrate that knowledge what we have gained in the fire control system with those guns what we are available with the armed forces here in India. This process is called retrofitting and the upgradation. So I must be able to do things on our own. But as of now, presently we take support of the principal, and until this principal comes, so this is where the I feel there is a gap. So effectiveness of the TOT will only happen if I am able to do all this thing on our own. In some way, the progress is being made, but then it is very slow. That's why our dependence on the Western majors or Russian weapons manufacturing setups is there, and the hold on our own defense requirement keeps on happening. I must also have the ability when effectiveness will only be seen when I have the ability to conceptualize our own weapon system, keeping our own requirements. As I mentioned that we have weapon system basically designed, conceptualized abroad, means either in West or in Europe. And not only in defense, but in every system, every field, if you see, even if you see the 5G technology, or you see the other areas of telecom, it is mainly done in Finland, Norway, etc. But nothing has been generated from India and being dominating the world scene. So this is where the real technology will transfer will happen when we start doing this particular thing, that Indian technologies, Indian generated technologies start happening and dominating. Some feel like in pharmaceuticals, some progress is being made, though basic research also happens in West, but then it cannot be done without support from the Indian pharmaceutical industry. So similarly, in the engineering field of the weapon development, this can be replicated, and we can catch up with these advanced nations too.
Thank you, sir, for giving that insight. In fact, you rightly brought out that invariably we going for TOT related to a particular equipment or a particular technology, but we have to have the awareness about our entire weapon inventory, where that TOT can be leveraged to be used elsewhere also. So that kind of ecosystem and institutionalized mechanism will need to be developed to really get the real benefit of the TOT, sir. Now, coming, sir, somewhere closer home on the MRO, what linkage do you see between MRO and the TOT, sir?
Good question. In the MRO, while the weapons are being purchased, there is always a clause because I was there in the defense procurement and we had got that, and it is there in almost all the revisions which have happened till date, that there has to be maintenance training of the personnel of the armed forces for most of the equipment which are imported. I'm not talking of those equipment which are developed indigenously by DRDO, because that's an internal thing, local internal affair. So in that, while the MRO personnel are interacting with the principals about the training, uh, I suggest that we should be ready with the questions to be asked from the principals about a lot of as much information as possible we can extract, and on the functionality aspect, and till they say that this is not part of the contract. And that knowledge what we gain must be very carefully documented and shared with the institutions in India which are doing research, because this will give us a peep inside their principle, their template of developing those equipment, that systems there. So this is one way the MRO can aid the TOT process, or generating our own weapon systems here. Uh, uh, some TOT specific focus is also given at the MRO level. We come across these pairs, their commonality, their alternatives. All these things can be discussed, because this is part of the broad process of the TOT. So MRO is an integral part of the TOT, and TOT is part of the MRO also. So this is basically twin thing which I would suggest there.
Thank you, sir. In fact, you have rightly connected both the TOT as well as MRO in the realistic domain. And I'm sure once the our Indian ecosystem develops to leverage the TOT in the equipment production, it will also be, hopefully will be looking at what it can do in the MRO domain as well. Now, sir, before I let you go, though you have covered this facet as to what needs to be done to leverage the TOTs, I would ask this final question to you. If you could, throw some light on, categorical terms as to what needs to be done to leverage TOTs, so that our viewers can understand that and implement them, in a much better manner.
Thank you, Janil Kumar. Before I answer the core part of the question, I'll pose a question like this to all our viewers and to everyone. We are presently pursuing the indigenization process in the defense, especially. Like if you take any equipment, and there are 100 component of it, and you are able to indigenize those 100 component, and good that Indian industry is getting some job, but then that equipment has a life, and as the time passes, that the utility of that equipment or the operational requirement of that equipment is not that much. So army phases out that equipment, and when army or the air force or navy phases out that equipment, the small scale industry which has taken up the indigenization of those 100 components will also stop getting orders. Now what they will do? So it is here that the this particular knowledge what the industry had of those indigenizing those 100 components is of no use till I am able to have the capability to comprehensively design a system how to integrate those 100 components and into a new weapon system of our own. So this shift from pure indigenization of the at the component subcomponent level, that must happen to support our industry, but then that is race half completed. So I have been suggesting in various forums that I must develop quickly the ability to conceptualize, design, produce, a weapon system of our own, which can only be done if there is synergy of the user, the MRO personnel, the researcher, and the industry, which is ultimately going to produce that weapon. So it's a that's why I say that comprehensive weapon system design capability is very important. Something has happened in, if you see, the Navy has done it a little smartly than the any other force, that they have been designing the submarine ships and the India that aircraft carrier also recently. So there they have integrated lot of components and then come up, though everything cannot be made here, that is true, but then major critical parts we must have. And I wish to see a day when all the critical parts are being made by Indian industry and then doing. Leveraging the knowledge gained from the TOT, as I mentioned in one of my earlier replies, that if we have a gun development capability, some other TOT has happened in the electronics part, where their firing control system or sighting system knowledge has been transferred. So integrating, leveraging that knowledge, what we gain from one TOT and from the other TOT, and then combining it and then coming up with our own. So I would just suggest that at present there is no repository of TOTs happening in India. Mostly TOTs are happening through the government route. Private I have not seen, and because the private is a late entrant in the defense production for last decade or two. All the TOTs are being purchased with the weapon system, whichever is thought of and in the RFP. There is no document. I have not come across that 100 TOTs have come, and this is the agency which was the nodal in that. And then somebody can check up with them that, okay, you got this technology and this organization have got this technology. Now, can we synergize these two and come up with this thing? So this is where I am just suggesting this is one way to leverage the TOT. Another is that our insights in the designing of the system, we can deploy the latest tool of new age technologies like virtual reality, augmented reality, AI, to develop our own weapon system. And this is a very good area where the country can leverage and quickly come up with our own design, like deploying VR capability. I don't need to manufacture the entire equipment, but yes, certainly Indians are very good in software and in mathematics, etc. So we can make a simulation of that equipment and then try to have combinations, like if say helicopters to be designed, like Bell Helicopters had deployed this technology 4-5 years ago to design a new helicopter, wherein everything was done virtually. The stresses were calculated, and when stresses, what they were thinking that will come on the blade and the material, it showed the cracks, that it was all virtual. And then they changed the material composition so they could arrive at a better design in 2 years time or 1.5 years time, of the same type what they earlier used to do physically manufacturing and testing in 8 years or 7 years. So this is where, and the cost was a fraction of what earlier they used to incur. So these technologies, tools we can use by leveraging the TOT. In my forum, I have suggested utilizing the quantum computing. One young technocrat from Vancouver, based in Canada, is hardly 28, 29 years old and heading a quantitative generative material organization, which is doing a lot of quantum computing for various companies. He suggested that we can take up semiconductor material design, and there are millions of calculations to be done in semiconductor material design. And like you change the band gap and then change how the electrons behave, the movement happen. So this is where the millions of calculations, millions of equations are there, which is beyond the capacity, I would say, of the normal computer, which will do in even the supercomputer will take months. So if I use the quantum computing techniques, only for this purpose, combined with AI, I can come up with the better semiconductor material design, say in 2 months' time or 3 months' time, and then get that design patented and manufactured in fabs elsewhere. Though we do not have fab, and the Indian fab will take at least 5 to 10 years to come up and perform in that manner. So quickly we can catch up this particular race to design our own semiconductor, which will be patented here in India and elsewhere too, and it will have a mark that it has been designed in India. Regarding the quantum computing, we can borrow time or quantum computing time from the established organizations world over, which are allowing their facilities to be used. So this is what we was suggesting in our forum, that transfer of technology can be taken up and leveraging it to the with the knowledge what we have in other fields, or whatever TOT we are getting from the defense or other areas, and then we can leverage and come up with the better design. So it's a synergy and then leveraging it. This is what I meant to suggest, that leveraging TOT for better weapon systems manufacture.
Thank you, sir. In fact, you have not only brought out the important facet of transfer of technology as to how we all should do that in an innovative manner, you have also brought out the modern technological tools in terms of the quantum computing, AR, VR, 3D printing, and host of other things which are currently available in the world, which can actually reduce the need of TOT. A number of things in which the technology transfer has not been done. Some bit of that at least can be handled by these alone, and our need for TOT will reduce, and what will be the inescapable need that can be used as you have highlighted, sir. So it remains for me to, you wish to say something more, sir?
Yeah. I'll. It just came to my mind several times. I had discussed also that in my forum, that like Army is trying for FICV. So a virtual model of FICV can be created, simulated, and then we can sit with the user, the industry, and the research organizations, and try various forums how it will behave, and the front and the war, everything, and then freeze on the basic features what the FICV will have. So it's this is one opportunity. I was just thinking that we can conceptualize, and it can, if you do virtually, it will be at a fraction of a cost when we take up the actual manufacture of the FICV. So once the parameters are frozen, the user is clear, the manufacturer is clear, our researcher is clear that this is what should be in the final equipment, and then we go ahead. So I've been hearing FICV for almost a decade. So this is just, I was thinking that.
So that's an interesting input, sir. In fact, by these techniques, we can not only reduce the costs, we can also enhance the accuracy, the qualitative output, and also save on time. In fact, India doesn't have that kind of luxury of time, the way we are pitted in the collaborative support of Pakistan and China, and we have to move fast and very fast on that. So thank you very much, sir, for sparing your time and giving us an insight on absorption of TOT in defense domain, and also number of linkages in the civil and other fields with practical examples. We shall, and our viewers will cherish these inputs, and we will have more and more on this in days to come. Viewers, this was Major General Dr. Ashok Kumar, your dialogue host today, wherein we spoke with Mr. Pradeep Gupta, a subject matter expert on TOT. And for your any queries and requirements, you can log in on the MRO Digest forums.com, and we'll be more than happy to interact with you. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.